The Mughal Empire. Deriving from Mongol, this name suggests much about the nature of this prosperous empire. Originally Turks from Central Asia, the Mughals poured into northern India and established an intensely militarized society with much regional dominance. They were led by Babur, and in 1526, 3 years after the start of the invasion, Delhi fell to the Mughals' superior tactics and military technology. Descendants of Central Asian nomads, the Mughals, like the Mongols, were master horsemen and quickly overwhelmed the Indians. Once they seized the riches of Delhi, they gained economic influence as well, which only strengthened their empire. They quickly conquered the rest of India and flourished with the spoils of conquest. Like throughout history in the Indian subcontinent, the Mughals benefited greatly as the middlemen of trade between China and Asian islands and a booming Europe. Being a necessary destination geographically, both on land and in sea, facilitated the prosperous economy. This aside, the vast amount of luxury resources also brought them great wealth. This large economy and high taxes strengthened the influence of the central government. In the mid-16th century, the brilliant charismatic ruler Akbar took charge and thoroughly organized a strong centralized government where the elites had absolute power. Akbar expanded the reach of the empire, bringing in more trade and wealth, and supported religious tolerance. Later rulers, such as Aurangzeb, were not as tolerant. This largely led to hostility and political instability. In its golden age, the powerful and innovative Mughal military allowed for an influential and expanding central political base. But in the long term, high economic potential allowed for not only the sustainability of the military, but the empire as a whole. This combined economic and military strength enabled consistent force projection that provided stability for Mughal rule.
The Indian subcontinent is isolated from the rest of Asia by the mighty Himalayan mountains and is surrounded by 3 large bodies of water, the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, and the Indian Ocean. It contains basically every kind of landscape possible and many different climates. India is the 7th largest country in the world and is over 3 million square kilometers. It shares borders with Pakistan, China, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. Sri Lanka resides off the southeast coast, and the Maldives are off the southwest. North India, the largest region, is mostly mountainous and blanketed in forests. Slightly more south, near the Indus River Valley, the land becomes flatter and turns into the plains of Punjab and the Himalayan foothills. Between these two areas is where the capital city, Delhi, is located. West India is home to some of India's best beaches and lined with rainforest, while East India contains the sacred Ganges River and most of the Himalayan foothills. South India is the very tip of the peninsula. Because of its vast size, the climate in India varies greatly depending on the season and the location. However, the north is typically cooler, especially between September and March. Contrarily, the south is usually cooler between November and January. In June, monsoons hit the west coast, and they also occur on the east coast between October and December. The Mughal Empire originally brought great religious toleration, rights for women, and appreciation for the arts. As mentioned previously, the earlier emperors, especially Akbar, promoted tolerance and even created his own religion of divine faith. During the empire, there was a very prosperous noble class and merchant class as a result of active trade networks. Many Indians traded with Europeans, yet they did not borrow their scientific discoveries, religion, or ideas. There was much better treatment of women compared to many other previous and current societies. They played an important role in Mughal society. Wives with husbands in government positions often gave them political advice. Many women were literate, and some worked to bring in income for their families and owned land. Others fought in war alongside men. Wealthy aristocratic women wrote poetry, painted, and played musical instruments. Overall, India's social standards for women at this time were much more advanced than other societies. However, although the emperors were Muslim, Hinduism was widely practiced, as well as some of their traditions, such as the cremation of widows. In order to keep their religion alive, Hindu men would marry Muslim women and convert them. Child marriage was also common. The Mughal Empire had a mixture of cultures, including the native Indian, Islamic, and Persian. and this affected the art of the time. The Emperor Akbar brought his appreciation for arts to his rule, which was centered around Persian and Indian motifs, but he was also partial to the European style of perspective and realism. He began a royal atelier for his collection of manuscripts and art. The grasping reach of the Mughal Empire explains the wide variety of items collected, which include items of Persian, Hindu, and European influence. The Emperor Humayun made the art of Persian miniature paintings very popular. Poetry was also an important art in the empire. The decline of Mughal artistry came with the reign of Aurangzeb, who was a strict Orthodox Sunni and outlawed music and paintings from his court. This occurrence caused the dispersion of Mughal art because most artists left the Mughal court to search for employment elsewhere.
Mughal religious policies were diverse and changed often. Each emperor brought about changes that either advanced or restricted policies of religious tolerance that affected all subjects of this dynamic empire. The Mughal Empire was founded by Babur, a Muslim Turk, in 1526, but he was by no means the first Muslim ruler in India. The first Muslims arrived in India in the 8th century. However, the lands he conquered had a large Hindu population. In addition, there was a rainbow of local beliefs and customs. Babur, also known as the Tiger, brought a policy of religious tolerance to India along with his new empire. He not only tolerated but supported Hinduism with the creation of new temples and edicts banning the slaughtering of cows because it was offensive to Hindus. Babur's religious policies promoted trade with Islamic empires and peace with Hindu kingdoms in southern India. Commonly regarded as the greatest ruler in Indian history, Akbar continued his grandfather's policies. He eliminated the jizya, or religious tax on non-believers, and the pilgrimage taxes that non-believers were charged when they visited their holy sites. He also proclaimed that Hindus and other non-believers were not subject to Sharia law. Hindus had their own court and law system called the Dharmanashtra. This model had large influence in the British colonies in the 18th and 19th century, when the English adapted this to their own purposes. Akbar also created his own religion, called Godism, in which he was supreme deity. It was a combination of Islamic, Hindu, Christian, and Buddhist teachings. Aurangzeb, ruler in 1658, is either one of the best or worst Mughal emperors, depending on how you look at it. He was a pious Muslim who outlawed drinking, gambling, and reopposed Sharia law and jizya taxes on all his subjects. These proclamations moved away from religious tolerance to a more Muslim-dominated state that angered the Hindu majority, along with the Marathas and the Sikhs, who eventually rebelled and further shaped India's future. Along with other political and religious policies, the Mughal Empire was now set to decline. Mughal architecture draws upon cultures, traditions, and knowledges from centuries past. Islamic knowledge of math, specifically geometry, aided design and execution of numerous edifices. Persian, Islamic, Hindu, and Indian influences make this architecture style unique. Emperor Akbar instigated architecture in the Mughal Empire. He developed a unique blend of Hindu and Muslim elements. Persia came to influence Mughal design through Emperor Humayun, who spent several years there in exile. Persian elements include tiles, mosaic, and charba, a garden layout. The Mosque of Lahore illustrates the patterns of mosaic that make the Persian aesthetic notable. Islamic influence is seen through geometric shapes, symmetry, balance, and framing present in numerous designs. The jali, a type of lattice screen, is an example of Islamic influence. Hindu temples were a common fixture in Mughal architecture. The chhatris, an elevated dome-shaped pavilion, symbolized this. Islamic influence also shaped Mughal architecture. Indian design elements include the jahoka, an overhanging balcony, and the chaja, protective eaves. These are necessary in Mughal design due to the extreme heat. It provides shade and protects design elements that may become faded from the sun. Red sandstone and white marble were the most common used materials because they were the most readily available. Architecture played an important role in Mughal times. It was greatly cherished and many resources were used to complete these projects. The Taj Mahal, for example, ordered by Shah Jahan in honor of his wife in 1648, took 20,000 workers more than 12 years to complete, and over $1 trillion were spent to complete this complex form of structure.